Sometimes, we search the world for someone or something extraordinary, only to realize that what we've had all along was more precious than any treasure we could ever find. I want to tell you a story of love, of moments unnoticed, of hearts quietly longing. There was once a young man named Armin who spent years chasing what he thought was love, traveling from one fleeting attraction to another, thinking the grass was greener somewhere else. Yet every night, when he returned home, he would see Aisha sitting quietly by the window, her eyes reflecting the stars, her smile waiting just for him. And every night, he looked past her. Armin never realized that true love isn't always in the grand gestures or distant dreams, it's in the warmth of someone who has been standing by your side, even when your eyes fail to notice. He missed her soft laughter echoing through the house, the way she remembered the little things he forgot, the comfort of her hand in his when the world felt too heavy. It was only when he nearly lost her to someone who saw her worth, that Armin understood, he had been blind to the treasure before him. Aisha was not perfect, she had her moments of doubt, her fears, her small stubbornness, but those very imperfections were the threads that wove their hearts together. He began to see that love doesn't demand perfection, it asks for recognition, gratitude, and presence. The beauty of love lies in valuing the soul, the companionship, the shared silence, the ordinary days made extraordinary simply by being together. From that moment, Armin learned to value what he had, not for its glamour or its rarity, but for its depth, its constancy, its quiet magic. He started noticing the gentle things, how she hummed while cooking, how her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams, how her hand always found his when he needed it most. He realized that love is not a distant quest, it's the home you've been standing in all along, waiting for you to see it. Love teaches us to treasure what we already hold before the fleeting winds of time carry it away. And so, Armin chose to stay present, to cherish every smile, every touch, every heartbeat shared with Aisha. He understood that the richest love story is not the one written in grand adventures, but in the tender, everyday moments where hearts meet, where appreciation grows, and where two souls recognize the priceless value of what they already have. Every day, we often overlook the quiet magic of love that surrounds us. It isn't always in grand declarations or dramatic gestures, it's in the gentle rhythm of shared life, in the small, almost invisible moments that make a relationship pulse with meaning. Take, for example, the way Aisha would leave a cup of tea on the table just the way Armin liked it, the steam curling in the morning light. He barely noticed at first, too busy chasing dreams and seeking excitement elsewhere. Yet, that simple act held a depth of care that spoke more loudly than any words. It was a language of love that only required attention, a language that whispered, "I am here. I see you. I cherish you." Love in everyday moments is also found in shared silences. Armin would come home after long, exhausting days, his mind crowded with worries, and he would slump into the couch, unaware of the comfort waiting for him in Aisha's quiet presence. Sometimes she didn't speak. She just sat beside him, a hand resting lightly on his arm, her warmth a balm to his weary heart. Those moments seemed ordinary, almost invisible, but they carried the essence of connection. They were the subtle threads that wove their lives together, binding their souls without pomp or ceremony. Even small gestures of thoughtfulness reveal the beauty of love. The way she remembered the way he liked his favorite book propped open, the way she noticed the strain in his voice when he said he was fine, even when he wasn't, these were the moments that mattered more than anything extravagant. Love is also in the shared laughter over a silly joke, in the quiet reassurance of a smile across a crowded room, in the way hands intertwine naturally when words fall short. These fragments of everyday life, when noticed, remind us of the depth of what we already hold. Armin began to see that these ordinary moments were not trivial, they were the lifeblood of a lasting love. Each gesture, each glance, each unspoken understanding was a testament to a bond that had grown stronger quietly, steadily, and beautifully. The sunlight falling on her hair as she hummed in the kitchen, the way her eyes sparkled with unspoken thoughts, the gentle brush of her fingers when passing him a book, these were treasures, and recognizing them was the first step toward truly valuing the love he had been living with all along. Armin had always believed that love would endure without effort, that simply being near Aisha was enough to keep their hearts intertwined. But love, he slowly realized, is fragile when unacknowledged, and the danger lies in taking it for granted. He began to notice that his careless words, his distracted mind, and the moments he didn't pause to see her, left spaces where regret could quietly creep in. There were days when she smiled at him, her eyes soft and full of hope, and he barely returned the gaze, lost in his own world. Those were the days he failed to appreciate her presence, the days that, he would later understand, were as precious as sunlight and just as fleeting. It was only when Aisha seemed distant, absorbed in her own thoughts, that Armin felt the sharp sting of what he had neglected. He remembered the times she had cooked his favorite meal after a long day, the nights she had stayed awake simply to listen to his worries, the laughter she had shared to lighten his burdens. All those moments, once unnoticed, now echoed in his heart with a sense of longing he couldn't quiet. Regret began to whisper, telling him that love is not sustained by habit or expectation, it flourishes only when seen, honored, and cherished. Armin learned that appreciation is not a grand act but a series of conscious choices. It's in the words he spoke when she shared her dreams, the smiles he returned when she offered hers, the gentle touch he gave when her hand sought his. Every small acknowledgement of her presence, every "thank you," whispered or glance returned, was an affirmation that he valued her existence in his life. He began to notice the delicate ways in which love thrives. The warmth of a shared morning coffee, the comfort of her leaning on his shoulder after a long day, the way her laughter filled the room and made even ordinary moments sparkle. Regret is a quiet thief that comes only when we fail to see the love standing before us, and Armin understood that fully. Every unappreciated gesture, every overlooked kindness, had the potential to grow into a gap too wide to bridge. He realized that love asks for awareness, attentiveness, and the courage to express gratitude, because tomorrow is never promised. A simple, "I see you, I value you," can save a heart from the ache of loss, and the first step in avoiding the pain of regret is to pause, to notice, and to honor the love that exists in every fleeting, ordinary moment. Armin had always imagined love as something flawless, a perfect connection where every word, every glance, every gesture aligned seamlessly with his expectations. But with Aisha, he slowly discovered that perfection was never the measure of love. It was her little quirks, her unique habits, and even her moments of stubbornness that made her heart unforgettable. The way she hummed off-key while cooking, the way she would fidget with her hair when nervous, or the little arguments they had over trivial matters, these were not flaws to be corrected, but the threads that wove the rich, intricate tapestry of their love. He began to see that imperfections are the marks of humanity, the signatures of individuality that make love vivid and alive. When Aisha spilled tea on the floor and laughed nervously, apologizing as her cheeks flushed, he realized that her imperfection was a reflection of her honesty and warmth, and it made the shared moment more real, more intimate, more theirs. Armin understood that if he sought perfection, he would miss the beauty of what was already present, the raw and authentic moments that carried depth and meaning. Even in their conversations, he noticed the charm of imperfection. Sometimes she would stumble over her words, or her stories would meander unexpectedly, yet these moments became a source of laughter, connection, and tenderness. Her vulnerabilities, once overlooked, now felt like the most precious pieces of her heart, pieces that she allowed him to hold and cherish. He realized that love does not ask for flawless execution, but for the courage to show oneself fully, with all the edges, curves, and inconsistencies intact. Armin also discovered that his own imperfections became part of the shared beauty between them. He didn't have to hide his mistakes, his fears, or his moments of doubt, because Aisha accepted them as part of the rhythm of their lives. Together, they created a love that was alive, breathing, and textured, a love that was richer because it embraced the imperfect, the unfinished, the real. Each imperfection became a story, a memory, a point of connection that drew their hearts closer, a reminder that true love is not about flawless appearances but about the courage to be human and still be loved completely. It was in the gentle acceptance of flaws, in the celebration of quirks, in the quiet appreciation of all that made each of them uniquely themselves, that Armin found a new understanding of love, one that did not demand perfection but thrived on authenticity, laughter, and the tender recognition of the beauty that lies hidden within every imperfection. Armin never realized how much of himself he could see in Aisha until he started paying attention. Love, he discovered, is often a mirror. It reflects not just the beauty of the other person, but also the hidden depths of your own heart. When he looked at Aisha, he saw patience, kindness, and an unspoken resilience that he had long forgotten existed within himself. Her laughter reminded him of the joy he had buried under years of routine and worry, her gentle encouragement awakened the courage he had hidden behind self-doubt. In loving her, he began to love himself more fully, noticing the parts of his soul that he had neglected to value. Each moment shared with Aisha revealed reflections of his own heart. When she offered understanding during his worst days, he realized that he was capable of the same compassion. When she celebrated his smallest victories, he recognized the need to celebrate himself more often. Through her eyes, he began to see the potential for growth, the tenderness that he had overlooked in his own actions, and the ways in which love could illuminate the best parts of who he was. Her presence became a guide, showing him that valuing someone else is inseparable from valuing the self, that empathy and admiration start inward and extend outward naturally. Even their disagreements mirrored hidden truths. When frustration surfaced between them, Armin noticed it wasn't just about clashing opinions, it was a reflection of unresolved fears, insecurities, and unspoken needs. Love, he realized, doesn't just show the other person's light, it shows the shadows too. Through her patience and understanding, he learned to confront the parts of himself he had ignored, to recognize that love is as much about reflection as it is about connection. Aisha became a mirror for his heart, showing him that caring for someone else deeply requires the courage to face and embrace one's own complexities. Armin discovered that love could reveal the unnoticed, the suppressed, and the essential pieces of life that often go unrecognized. When he truly valued Aisha, he noticed his own gratitude growing, his own capacity for compassion expanding, and his own appreciation for everyday moments deepening. Their bond became a dialogue, a silent exchange where the reflection of one heart taught lessons to the other, where every touch, every smile, every shared glance became a mirror reflecting not just affection but self-awareness, growth, and the quiet realization that in loving someone completely, he was also discovering and treasuring the love he held for himself. Armin realized that noticing love wasn't enough, he had to act on it. Appreciation is not just a feeling that lingers quietly in the heart, it is a choice, an action, a whisper carried through words and gestures. He began to understand that every smile, every touch, every small act of recognition mattered deeply to Aisha, that her heart felt the difference between being merely seen and being truly valued. He started leaving little notes, reminding her of the simple joys she brought into his life, or surprising her with a cup of tea just the way she liked it, noticing the sparkle in her eyes when she saw the thought behind it. Acting on appreciation meant paying attention to the moments that could have been overlooked. Armin began to hold her hand longer when walking through crowded streets, to pause mid-conversation to look into her eyes, to acknowledge her presence with words that once felt unnecessary. He realized that love thrives in these deliberate gestures, that every act of recognition deepened the bond they shared, and that the quiet effort of honoring her daily life transformed ordinary routines into sacred rituals of connection. The more he acted on his appreciation, the more he discovered that gratitude itself became a language of intimacy, a rhythm that strengthened the heartbeats of their relationship. Even challenges became opportunities to show his care. When disagreements arose, instead of retreating or reacting with impatience, he learned to express his appreciation for her perspective, her feelings, and the love she had always extended toward him. He began to compliment not only her beauty but her patience, her thoughtfulness, her unwavering presence. The simple act of saying, "I notice you, I am grateful for you," carried more weight than any extravagant gift or grand gesture. Love, he realized, is reinforced not by grandiosity but by consistent, heartfelt acknowledgement of the small, meaningful ways someone enriches your life. Armin also discovered that acting on appreciation required courage and timing. There were days when fatigue or distraction threatened to dull his attentiveness, but he made conscious choices to pause, to reach out, to express what he felt in the moment. A smile, a whispered word, a gentle embrace, these acts became his way of saying that he understood her value, that he would not take her presence for granted, and that love is a living, breathing thing that requires action to thrive. By translating feeling into action, he nurtured a love that was tangible, immediate, and endlessly tender, a love that made Aisha feel seen, cherished, and endlessly loved.